With the second pick in the 2020 NFL Draft, the Washington Redskins select Chase Young, defensive end, Ohio State.
But you know, as they say, hail to the Redskins. Let's roll, man. Let's go.
Welcome, all my fellow Redskin brethren and sistren. I am your man and resident Redskins fan, Lou. Thank you for joining me here on the Redskins Report. I guess at some point I'm going to change that. I'm going to have to alter that. I see everyone is starting to get into the whole Washington thing. So at some point I will have to go ahead and retire all of that. The Redskins Report, change it to something else, and you know, my whole spiel coming in to the show. I'll get around to that at some point. But I want to start this off because I got a lot to get to. And we'll get to some comments a little bit later on, if there are any super chats, any of that stuff. There are a couple of items that I want to knock out right here at the beginning before I even get into anything. First things first, rest in peace, rest in paradise to a couple of great civil rights warriors that we lost today. The most notably being John Lewis. You know, he has been the symbol, you know, one of the lasting symbols of the 1960s revolution and the civil rights movement that really brought about all the change that people like myself get to take part in. You know, a lot of the liberties and civil liberties and things that we have, freedoms we have because of people like John Lewis. And he was the face of that. The living face of that, I should say, and one of the most prominent figures of the 1960s civil rights movement. And so he passed away at the age of 80 from cancer, finally succumbed to that. So my prayers go out to his family, and I just want to say thank you. And so wanted to get that out of the way right off the top of the show. The next thing, and I know this is a crazy segue, you know, but in transition, but I got to go right straight to Ron Rivera. Man, I love that guy. And I told you guys on the show on Thursday night that he was the perfect guy for the job. Like, I can't envision anyone else doing a better job than he's done throughout all of this nonsense. And again, he did not sign up for this in particular, but he knew what he was coming into. He knew he was coming in to an S-storm, and that he was going to have to navigate his way through some nonsense along the way. But he knew the number one priority this offseason, and really the next probably 2 or 3 off seasons, because this isn't a 1-year fix. And then you're talking about trying to wipe away 20 years of dysfunction. You're not going to do it in one off season. All right, so this is going to be a multi-layered, multi-year process. But I love the fact that he's been unwavered in his support of this organization and the job that he was sent here to do, that he came here to do. And we talked about, someone even asked the question and said, man, I feel bad. A lot of you said, feel bad for Ron Rivera. He didn't sign up for this. And he said, and a lot of you, someone asked in particular, I can't remember who exactly posed the super chat, but they said, hey, I wonder if Ron has regrets. Do you think Ron has regrets? And I'm like, yeah, he probably does have some regrets, you know, when it comes to this organization and taking this job. He could have waited and allowed the process to play itself out. And there were other opportunities that came along, the Giants job, the Cowboys job, the Browns job. He probably could have gotten a job somewhere else, but here, and not have to deal with all of the nonsense and chicanery that is taking place to this point. But in typical Ron Rivera fashion, which is why I absolutely love this guy and think he's the perfect man for the job, here's what he had to say. And, you know, it's funny that we talked about him potentially having regrets. First thing out of his mouth as he was talking to the Charlotte Observer, no regrets, Rivera says. And look, what is he supposed to say, right? I mean, he's not going to come out and say, yeah, I had some regrets. I had some second thoughts, but what am I going to do? Like, what is he going to say? But I still would like to hear him say no regrets. Well, he said, no regrets. I look forward to the challenge of improving a 3-13 team. I want to build a sustainable winning culture in every facet. How can you not love this guy? He then goes on to say, I had no idea about this stuff, all right, which he didn't. He just got here 2 seconds ago. You know, we were talking about things in that Washington Post article that they highlighted 13 years of dysfunction and sexual misconduct in the organization from 2006 to 2019. He wasn't here for any of it. So, of course, he had no idea of what was going on. But he also said the biggest thing is that we have to move forward from this and make sure everybody understands we have policies that we will follow, that we will have an open door policy with no retribution. He said, plus my daughter works for the team, and I'm sure as hell not going to allow any of this. Exclamation point. So, man, I love Ron Rivera. Man, he is the perfect man for the job. Daniel Snyder couldn't have hired a better man. And honestly, I've said this a million times. I'm going to continue to say this. I'm glad he chose us. Okay. Because I don't know if anyone else could literally stand in the midst of all of this nonsense that's going on and be unwavered in their support, but more specifically in their message and in their resolve. Ron Rivera is the right man for the job. So I wanted to say that. Then I wanted to say this. I know you guys have seen a lot of the nonsense going on. And I told you this. I think I said this on Twitter. I said it on one of my socials. I believe it was Twitter. So if you're not following me on Twitter, what are you waiting on? At Louis T Network on Twitter. On IG, Louis underscore it's or underscore Louis T Network underscore. So on IG it's Louis T Network underscore. Anyway, I said this on one of my socials, I believe it was Twitter, that you're gonna hear a lot of stuff, and I may have even said it on one of my programs. I can't recall, but I said you're going to see a lot of people come out of the woodworks with stuff, because that's what happens when Pandora's box is opened. Now everyone has an opportunity to pile on. People could have been saying things, but they said, look, no one wants to look like a snitch. No one wants to look like the person that outed somebody. All right, that's just a part of culture, especially black culture. But that extends to just about anybody. Nobody wants to be a snitch. White, black, brown, orange, green, yellow. Nobody wants to be a snitch. So, but once one person snitches and you're salty about something and you're in your feelings, you're like, well, shit, they said something. I'm going to say something. That's what happened to Bill Cosby, essentially. And it's a little different because, that was more a little bit of fear. Like, maybe they won't believe me, if I come out and say something. But once one person said something and then another person said it, well, hell, it's five of them. If I say something, it's six of us. And if somebody else says seven of us, like, they got to believe us, right? So now you're seeing people come out of the woodworks. I know you heard about, DJ Swearinger, and you probably read his Instagram rant that he went on and showed, he had receipts from Jay Gruden. We don't know if that's actually, Jay Gruden. I mean, that was, again, I'm not calling the man a liar. And honestly, I don't care. I don't care. I really don't. I mean, Jay Gruden's no longer with the organization. I could care less. But, it was a weird text exchange because he's like, I don't even know who this is. I don't know. This is just me. If I get down with my coach, wouldn't you have his number in your phone saved? Like, someone just texts you out of the blue and maybe Jay was trying to cover his ass. Maybe it's not even Jay Gruden. I don't know. But, if I'm texting somebody and I don't know, and he said, I don't know who this is. Who is this? Who this? Like, I'm not going to text Jay Gruden. Like, I'm not going to text my whole name to you. I would have just put, if it's Gruden, is like, if you call me Gruden or you call me, or Coach Gruden, it's Coach Gruden. Like, I'm not going to put Jay Gruden. Like, it just, whatever. Bottom line is, we know him and Jay didn't get along, and DJ was very, very forthcoming to the media and maybe out of pocket in a number of different instances. Him and Jay had spoken on numerous occasions. And so there was probably animosity there. And that may have been Jay Gruden literally texting him. Bottom line is, I said that to say this. DJ Swearinger came out of the woodworks. I don't know if you had a chance to check out Zach Brown, but Zach Brown, the ex-Redskins linebacker, who, if you remember, didn't leave here on the best terms. He had something to say on his IG account. He later then deleted it because that's what people do. They say things when they're in their feelings, when they're in their pocket, all right? And they realize, oh shit, I'm out of pocket. And so they go back and try to retrace their steps. So let me play, if for those of you who haven't, and I know most of you probably already have, I'll just play the audio from Zach Brown as he's walking down the steps, talking about everything as he realizes the shit's about to hit the fan. And no one actually knew what was going to be in the article, but he kind of gives you a little bit of a sneak peek as to, hey man, I know some stuff too, because everybody was doing a, hey man, I know some stuff. You know, everybody was doing it. Oh, and just I told you, we all kind of, you know, fed off of the crumbs that were being left. And, you know, it didn't turn out to be exactly what we thought it was going to be. But here's Zach Brown talking on his IG a couple days ago.
Look, I'm a bad teammate and shit like that. No, I'm not a bad teammate. Y'all some fucking liars. That's why this shit about to go down. This is so funny, man. Cause we could, like the players, we could put all y'all motherfucking business out there, but we don't. Cause y'all pay us. But now that I know you talk shit about me, I want everybody to let that shit fly. Oh, I'm about to figure out who did coke. Cause the shorty told me one of y'all motherfuckers did coke. Just didn't believe him. I bet y'all know who it is too. Ooh,
So that was a video that he posted. I just ripped off the audio because obviously he doesn't want that out to the masses any longer, which is why he took it off of his page. So I'm not going to put the video up, but I did give you the audio, and you can hear clearly that he said someone was doing coke. I think I know who it is. He said the same thing. I'm not going to say who I think it is. I'll let you, in your mind, conjure up an inference there as to who you think it is, but that's nor here nor there. Bottom line is, you read the tweets from Josh Norman about how things will come to the light and God always positions you to be in the right place. You know, so everyone, and we're talking players here. So we're not even talking about faculty members and staff people. We're talking about players who probably saw a lot while walking through those walls at Redskins Park. And look, this is not something abnormal to the NFL. I think there are a lot of things that go on behind closed doors in these facilities that we'll never know. And let's not act like the Redskins are the only franchise to have a lot of mischievous things going on behind closed doors, okay? I'd venture to say all 32 NFL franchises have a lot of shit going on behind closed doors. I mean, look at the three-ring circus the Steelers had for years back there. You know, we were finding out things day after day when that whole Antonio Brown situation first hit the fan and he ultimately was traded. We knew about Le'Veon Bell and the things he was doing in the locker room. We knew about Antonio Brown. How about Ben Roethlisberger, especially early in his career when he had rape allegations and things. There's a lot going on in Pittsburgh. I'm just telling you, the Redskins aren't the only team that has a lot going on behind closed doors, okay? Don't fool yourself. But I will say that there's more to this story. Okay. And I don't think, and I'm not going to keep doing this. I know some of you are sick and tired of talking about this, as am I. But I am also fascinated by all of this. Okay. And you know, I would much rather just be talking football. I would much rather be talking about who's going to be the starting left tackle for the Washington Redskins come week 1. You know, versus the Philadelphia Eagles. I would like to be talking about that. Who's going to start at tight end for the Redskins? Are they going to sign a free agent wide receiver to come in and try to help? I would like to be talking about those things. Those things aren't relevant right now. Okay, they're not pertinent. We don't even know if we're going to have a season or not. All right, so I'm going to talk about this. This will probably be the last time we do this whole Daniel Snyder thing because he's not going anywhere. Okay, so unless something else big happens, this will probably be the last time I'll do this because I know you guys are probably getting sick and tired of talking about this. But I just want you to know that there's more, okay? I don't have anything new for you. And this is also something I want to get off my chest before I go into my spiel. All right? I'm not plugged in. I'm not going to sit here. I'm not going to play the role of one of these people that act like they know something and they really don't. And they want to seem important. And so they're trying to act as if they have information, but they can't give it to you. I'm not going to do that. All right. And I'm not calling out anyone that was doing that leading up to the story being posted, because I told you, if you are in the media, it's your responsibility to allow the Washington Post to have their story. They did the work. They did the legwork. Let them drop the story. It's not your job. It's not your responsibility to give out that information. But I'm going to tell you this. I'm not plugged in. I don't have any inside sources. I got people giving me information. And as I told you, I take all of that with a grain of salt. Some of it I think is true. Some of it I think it's a little far-fetched. Whatever the case may be, I've got people sending me stuff, but I'm not plugged in. All right, I don't have somebody inside the building or a source that I know I can go to get some information. But I can tell you this: I'm a smart guy, and I'm not afraid to say that. Okay, and I've got people that I know that I've talked to. I've got family members that are lawyers. I myself at one point was practicing to try to become a lawyer. All right. So I understand how these things work. Okay. I know that there's a lot more. What you see, there's so much more behind the scenes that you will never see. And that's what I'm trying to get out to you guys about this whole situation with Snyder. I do want to say this. Daniel Snyder was just scared straight. Now, I don't know how long this is going to last for, but Daniel Snyder just had his come to Jesus moment. The awakening is what I like to call it. Okay. He was just awakened because he was this close to losing his NFL franchise. I don't think he ever realized, because he's a very arrogant guy. I don't know him personally, but I've talked to a lot of people. I've listened to a lot of people, talked to a lot of people, listened to a lot of people who do either know him, have known people that know him, or do know people that know him. All right. And they all say the same thing. So I feel like it's probably factual. He's an arrogant guy. And generally speaking, when you've got that much money, you usually are a very arrogant person. Now, that's I don't want to paint a broad stroke over every person with money, because not every person with money is an arrogant prick or jerk. But a lot of people that have money don't have people telling them that they should or shouldn't do this or do that, because normally they're the ones making all the decisions and they're in charge. And so generally speaking, they feel like they can do no wrong, and usually they don't take blame for things. And so he's arrogant. He doesn't think he does anything wrong. That's part of the reason this organization has failed over the last 2 decades. So I'm not telling you anything you don't already know. All right. But I've talked to people. I've listened to people that have told me the same exact thing. So I like to think it's true that he's pretty arrogant. That being said, it's that level of arrogance that probably allowed him to think that he was untouchable. You know, as long as I have breath in my body, I'm going to own the Washington Redskins. Well, this week, these last 2 weeks or so, I think have really shaken him to his core. It's really shown him that, bro, you slip up, all right, and even you can get touched. The long arm of the NFL law will reach out and touch your ass and force you to sell your organization. He's not going to have to sell after this thing, but I can tell you this much, and this was the biggest reason I wanted to come up here, was that when you get as powerful as a guy like Daniel Snyder, you have the resources to hire what is called a fixer, okay? Beth Wilkerson, is a fixer. All right, now I know some of you think this is some kind of Hollywood made up type of job description and title. No, these people really do exist, okay? All right, like you think of Scandal. I always think of Scandal when I think of a fixer, but Inside Man, if you remember that 2006 Denzel Washington movie, great movie. All right. Rich owner of a bank, among other things, got a lot of money in a lot of different places, made a ton of money, all right, off of the Holocaust. And then there was a ring in a safe deposit box that didn't even supposedly exist because the number didn't even exist at the bank. Well, he needed to get that ring because if that ring got into the wrong hands, he could find himself in some hot water. His whole empire could crumble down. And so he sends a fixer. If you remember Jodie Foster's character in that movie, She was a fixer. People that are powerful. Normally, fixers are attorneys. Why? Because attorneys are powerful. They know a lot of people. They have a long reach. They got tentacles. They can reach out and extend and touch a lot of people. And they know a lot of people that can get things done. But more importantly, attorneys know the law. That's the most important part, because if you know the law, you can manipulate things. All right. So generally, fixers are attorneys. And as you saw in Inside Man, as you saw, seen in Scandal, these fixers were attorneys that could come in and get shit done. All right. And generally too, again, I don't like to paint a broad stroke over this, but they're females, because you've got to, in really almost every walk of life, females have to carry a different burden than males do, because they've got to be tougher. They've got to have thicker skin. They've got to be able to navigate things that we don't as men, because we don't have to put up with some of the things they have to put up with and some of the obstacles they have to hurdle over. So people take them for granted. So they've got to have that ability to rule with an iron fist. And they build up this tolerance to be able to slap somebody when they need to verbally. All right. All right. Legally. All right. They know how to do. And so when these females get into those positions, they worked their asses off and they've pissed off a lot of people, but they've also gained the respect of everybody to get to that point. And he hired Beth Wilkerson, and she's one of those types of people. She's a fixer. Go check her resume. All right. She's got receipts. All right. So, you know, she's a type of person that can come in and get shit done. I said all of that to say this. Don't think for 1 second. And I believe that Washington Post article, it's probably 90% what it was when it was drafted, when it was written up. I think there are a couple of things in there that they had to take out, that Daniel Snyder forced them to take out by hiring Beth Wilkerson. And look, don't fool yourself. If you think she was just brought in to do an internal investigation and a thorough, detailed look and deep dive into this organization's culture. Come on, man. Like, you've got to wake up. Like, that's not what she was hired to do. Now, obviously, that's going to be a part of her job description, and that's going to be a part of what she's going to ultimately do, because the league has essentially said, hey, we're going to allow you to handle your own internal investigation. All right. You hired someone from the outside, which the NFL doesn't want to force anybody to sell anything. Okay. That's not what they're looking to do. However, so if the Redskins are proactive, which the fixer came in, Beth came in and started fixing shit, which is what they do, they're going to allow the Redskins to do everything they need to do, sanction themselves, punish themselves, and hopefully they don't have to step in. They're going to find the Redskins. I'm just hoping they don't take any draft picks. That at this point, that's all you can really hope for. But I think Beth came in and she said, okay, this isn't going to come out into this article. And I think there might have been some things, maybe incriminating Dan, maybe not. I think there were some other salacious things that potentially would have been in that article that they forced out. Look, that's nor here nor there. The bottom line is there's a lot of things that are happening behind closed doors at Redskins Park that we'll never know about. This is what a fixer does. They make sure that you never know. Okay. You and I will never know. And you can't tell me that all of the things that we've heard over the last, 96 hours that was running rampant, some of that stuff was ridiculous. Again, the paying the officials, that to me, that was the funniest thing that I saw. I don't believe it. And I know some of you were making fun of me in the comment section of the last video. Like, come on, you don't think that that's legit? Look, I don't. I'm sorry. I'm just not one of those people. I'm not a conspiracy theorist when it comes to sports. I'm a conspiracy theory when it comes to other things, not sports. All right. Generally speaking, I think the best team generally wins, and there's a call or two here or there that you're like, come on, that's a terrible call, but that happens in sports. So that was, to me, way out of bounds. Way out of bounds. Like, we don't even need to go to replay for that. That wasn't a catch. He was way out of bounds. All right. So, but there were some other things that I heard, that I received from people where I'm thinking to myself, that could have actually happened, and when you watch the Pat McAfee show, and I know a lot of you saw that, when I got the same text message that he got. I'm pretty sure I got the same text message, and again, we don't run in the same circles. I don't know the guy that he got, but a lot of the information he was looking at, because the information he was talking about was the paid referees, because remember, he kept saying, well, if this is true, well, it's not just on the Redskins. This is bad for the entire league. This is bad for a lot of teams around the league. I got the same information. All right, so, and a lot of people felt like this was going to be, because what we saw in the post, no, if you saw that before it was released, if you had any inkling of what was coming out and you thought that was enough to get Daniel Snyder fired, then you just aren't tapped into how this works. I don't think, and these were a lot of smart people that were thinking Daniel Snyder might have to pack his shit up and go much faster than slow. So what I'm telling you is some of this stuff has validity to it. That we've got in our possession, that we've heard. Some of it, not all of it is true. The Capri Bibb stuff, I believe that. I do, There's some other stories out there, I believe. I believe that DJ Swearinger, easily could have gotten into a fist fight, because Jay is that kind of guy. I just see Jay Gruden being a guy that, you cross him a couple of times and Jay's ready to nut. Like, let's go, man. Drop your shit. Let's go. I'm ready. Let's throw down. Like, I believe that happened. I don't know if I believe that exact text exchange, but I believe that there were some words exchanged, and if DJ wanted to fight, Jay was ready. I do believe that. I believe a lot of things, I believe that there was some drug use, I can tell you this, there are probably a lot of these similar types of things happening in a lot of organizations. I'm just telling you. Don't tell me you don't think Bill O'Brien would be ready to fight a player if they went to the media a couple of times and aired him out, and he had already talked to them. Bill O'Brien remember, he almost got into it with Brady on the sidelines. Like, Bill O'Brien strikes me as a guy that has no problems getting into it with you as a player if he feels like he's being disrespected. All right. Again, there's a lot of things that I think we will never know, but I think Daniel Snyder has now, if he's smart, and I don't know if he actually has something going on that we don't know about that is an addictive behavior, then this isn't going to be enough unless he gets real help. I don't think he does. That's just my opinion. I think this was enough to scare him into making sure that some changes are actually made. But everything that you're seeing, this is being done by the fixer, Beth Wilkerson. All right? Like, don't fool yourself. He came out with a statement talking about that he was appalled and disappointed and that changes will be made. But then, and that was all the fixer. That whole statement, that whole quote that he had, he didn't write any of that. That was the fixer writing all of that stuff. And she's doing a hell of a job. Let me say this. She's doing a tremendous job of damage control. It's Beth Wilkerson. This is why she's a fixer. This is why she gets paid the big bucks. All right. She's doing a hell of a job, because that statement, that internal statement that he released to the organization. First of all, do you guys know what internal means? Do you have any idea? The word internal means inside. Okay, that means nobody outside of the building was supposed to get wind of this. This was supposed to be internally handled, sent to everyone on the staff internally. This is not supposed to leave our building. However, this internal memo was sent right to David Aldridge, who then promptly did the work for the Redskins or the Washington football team and sent it to the masses on Twitter and on socials, and everybody else got a hold of it, and it spread like wildfire. Daniel Snyder and Tanya Snyder sent this memo telling the rest of their staff how deeply saddened they were by the events that have taken place in the article written by the Washington Post that really laid out a bunch of things that they don't agree with, and that this is a situation that they're going to fix and they're going to change, and they're going to put all of these different policies in place, and they're going to have a team that is going to be set up, and they'll have more down the line as to how this is going to take place. But they are so sorry and they appreciate all of that. When's the last time we heard an internal statement from Daniel Snyder? We've heard more from Daniel Snyder, because I really think this is the fixer, but we've heard more from Daniel Snyder in the last 48 hours than we have the last 3 years from Daniel Snyder on anything. I mean, you saw the weak ass statement they released when they pretty much retired the Redskins name. He didn't even have a quote in that statement, did Daniel Snyder. Okay? So she's come in, she's fixing stuff, and a lot of the things that are going on behind the scenes, and you heard what Zach Brown said, these players could really air this team out if they really wanted to. And that goes for any organization. These players see a lot of shit. They're in these buildings every single day. And we're not going to find out about a lot of this stuff. But if Daniel Snyder's smart, he won't come close again to being in this position. I think this is the last time we're going to have a chance to get rid of Daniel Snyder in this form or fashion, okay? This was our one shot, and we didn't connect. And at this point, if Daniel Snyder could just stay the hell out of the way, let Ron Rivera do what it is he needs to do, let the football people do what it is they need to do, and just stay in the background, which he's really good at staying in the background. You know, it just always seems like he's got his fingerprints on stuff. Even though we don't actually hear him or see him, he's always got his fingerprints on something. If he could just stay the hell out of the way and this thing turns around, I got no problems with this man owning the team. The only reason I don't want him owning the team is because for 20 years, he's done nothing but F this thing up. All right? F it up massively. Okay? Remember, even though we weren't a good football, team after Joe Gibbs 1.0 in 92, we had some years in there where you're like, hey, that's not 96. We started off the season like 7-1. Now we fizzled out and it ended up not making the playoffs. We remember 99 with Norv Turner, won the division, got to the divisional round, easily could have won that game and been in the NFC Championship game versus the St. Louis Rams. Should have won that game versus the Buccaneers, had a 13-0 lead and blew it. That's nor here nor there. But so we were still, if you had any connection to the 80s and early 90s Redskins and the winning, we weren't that far away. We weren't that far removed from that. So once he got here in 99 and shit went downhill, we haven't even been remotely close to what we once were. And it's all because of Daniel Snyder. Starts with him, ends with him. All right. A lot of in between, but he's the guy that's the constant. Now, I said that the other night. So if he can find a way to just get the hell out of the way, let Ron Rivera turn this thing around, I got no problems with this man owning the team. But at the end of the day, there's been a lot of things that has happened under his watch. We will never know about these things. And I think some of the things that I've been hearing about over the last 96 hours, I think some of these things are actually true and have some validity to them, but the fixer will never allow these things to see the light of day. And I think that's why it took so long for that Washington Post article to come out, because they had to go through some litigation. They had to go through some things and in order to get that out there, because look, 15 women, only one spoke up. Why? There were some NDAs in there, man. And I think they had more quotes, some that may have implicated Daniel Snyder and some other people in that organization, but they had to take that stuff out. They had to take it out because they weren't going for it. Legally, they couldn't do it. So I just felt like I needed to say that Dan's not going anywhere. And I think the Redskins organization, I don't care. They're going to get fined. That's coming out of Dan's pocket. I could care less. I hope they don't take any draft picks for us, from us. We'll see what happens. But at the end of the day, Ron Rivera is the right man for the job. And I hope that he is allowed to do what it is he was brought here to do. Because I feel like for the first time in a long time, and I think this all is kind of connected. All of these things are tied. And just let me say this too. Don't think for one second that the minority owners wanting to sell didn't have anything to do with the Washington Post story. All of these things are connected. They wanted out because they easily could have been swept into. Look, the 2018 New York Times article stated that those cheerleaders that were harassed on the boat and on that trip, there were sponsors and some of the ownership. Look, they knew that they could have easily got swept up into this, and they've got businesses that they need to stay afloat, that they can't afford to get caught up in the wash here. Fred, Smith isn't trying to get FedEx caught up into any of this nonsense because that could affect his bottom line. That's his breadwinner there. So all of these things are connected. We will never hear any of that stuff, though. Trust me. All right. There's a lot of different things that have taken place. They're all connected, but it won't see the light of day. All right. So with that said, let let me go ahead and knock out any of this, any of these super chats. I'll just tell you this: if Dan's smart, he won't come this close to being ousted again. You know, he will take measures and drastic steps to make sure that he's never in this position again. And you know what? His arrogance may make him think that he's still untouchable. And maybe that's the case. But he was really close. And there's still people calling for his, calling for his share of the team that he needs to sell. And it's not going to happen. But he was this close to being on the chopping block. And if he's smart, he'll take this as a lesson and he'll never come this close again. Because the Redskins organization is such a big part of who he is. That's why he's not going to sell, which is why if you want him gone, he's got to be forced out. He's not going to sell because the Redskins organization is his identity. Without it, he's just Daniel Snyder. Who gives a shit? If it's not Daniel Snyder, comma, Washington Redskins or Washington whatever owner, then he's just Daniel Snyder. Nobody gives a shit. It's sad and it sounds harsh. It's the harsh reality, and that's why he'll never sell. It's because this team is his identity. It's who he is. All right. It's why Matthew McConaughey wants to be his friend. Without this team, Matthew McConaughey doesn't care about a Daniel Snyder. He only cares that Daniel Snyder owns his favorite football team. All right. So that's all I got to say on that. Let's read these super chats and then we'll get out of here. Got super chat from Mr. Ajama 9. Thank you for the super chat, Mr. Ajama 9. Greatly appreciate you. Mr. Ajama 9 writes, "What's the likelihood we lose picks from this mess?" That's to me the thing that I dread the most, is that we could see the Redskins be docked some picks here. I mean, the Patriots just lost some draft picks for recording the Browns, the Bengals sidelines, I believe it was. Like, I mean, the Bengals were an 0-12 outfit at the time of that game, or whatever the case was. Like, what difference does it make that they were recording their sidelines? But they lost draft picks for that. So, or a draft pick. I don't remember if it was multiple or just one. Normally, in these types of situations, the league does dock you a draft pick. I'm hoping it's just a fine. Right now, I'd put it at like a 30% chance that the Redskins would be docked a draft pick or two from this whole fiasco. But I think it's a greater chance right now that it's just a fine, no draft picks involved. But I put it at 30, so it's a significant chance that they could lose a draft pick over this. But right now, I'm leaning towards just a fine, a hefty fine for Daniel Snyder and this organization, and that's it. But we will see. Thank you for the super chat, Mr. Ajama 9. DMV Sports 3. Thank you for the super chat, DMV Sports 3. Greatly appreciate you. DMV Sports 3 writes, you can pay off one, maybe two, but if one comes out, the floodgates open fast. And that's, I think, why the fixer had to come in and make sure that all of that stuff that was in the article didn't come out, potentially. And because one person out of 15, you can stomach 1 out of 15. Had there been 4 more ladies in that article giving graphic details of how they were harassed. We heard about Rhiannon Walker from the Athletic and another journalist in there and reporter that, had some issues with this organization while reporting on the Redskins. Had we heard about more people that actually worked in the building and their specific, experiences and the people that were doing this to them, and maybe 1 or 2 of them said, "Hey, I spoke to Mr. Snyder and he never did anything about it." Like, that would have been the smoking gun. Okay? And just a simple, like, not him actually doing anything, but just one line. "I actually spoke to Mr. Snyder and nothing was done." That would have been enough to get him out. Because again, he can play the naive card and no one can say that he did know. All he's got to say is, I had no idea soon as I found out, which is what Beth has come in and done. Look, you didn't know anything. Even if you did, and I don't want to know. If Beth comes in, she's like, look, I don't want to know what you know. I'm just telling you, you don't know anything. You didn't know. And as soon as you found out, guess what? You got rid of the guys that were implicated in this article. So that one line could have been enough to get Dan out of there. I told Mr. Snyder what was happening. Nothing was done. All right. So, something like that easily could have been wiped. A couple of hits of the backspace key, and that's gone. So, if there were more individual accounts laid out in that article, could have been a lot worse for a lot more people. But as you mentioned, all it takes is one a lot of times. You saw these players coming out of the woodworks when they thought this thing was going to be massive. Everybody started coming out, oh, I got something, I got something, I got something, I got something. Everybody's got something now. So, all it takes is one, as we know. Thank you for the super chat, DMV Sports 3. Barrett Downing. I saw your comment below, Watts. You a damn fool. I'm not doing that with you, though. My man Barrett Downing, BD, thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you as always. Barrett writes, at work, brother, but always good to hear you, man. Thank you for the support. Thank you for the super chat, man. I greatly appreciate you. Got another super chat. This one here is from, I think I got another super chat. Yeah, I got one more super chat. This one here is from Giovanni Diamond. Thank you for the super chat, Giovanni Diamond. Greatly appreciate you. Giovanni writes, why is it so hard to remove NFL owners? Great question. One, it's an elite fraternity. There are only 32 NFL owners. It's only 32 NFL franchises, and whether it's owned by a group of owners, whether it's owned by one owner in particular, or it's owned by the public, like the Green Bay Packers are. There are only 32 of these NFL franchises. And so it takes a lot of work to get in, all right, to one of these organizations, and just as much. And conversely, it takes a lot to get somebody out. All right, a lot of times these NFL teams are only transferred to someone else via two things, really, a sale or death. And really the sale generally only happens when the original owner passes away, and the ownership is then passed to a family member, more likely than not one of their children. And that person just doesn't have the passion that their father had for the organization, or their mother or whomever had before them. And because of that, like that was the case with the Cleveland Browns. Like, their old owner, he didn't have the passion that his dad had for the organization when he bought it. And so his dad passed away, it got passed down to him being the son. And he's like, look, I don't have to deal with this. I don't care about this team. I don't care about football like this. Hey, Jimmy Haslam, you take the organization. I'm good. I'm out. So that's generally the only way you're going to get somebody out of here because it's so lucrative. So, and these guys have so much money. And so, anytime someone has a ton of money, that means they have a ton of resources. If you got a ton of resources, then you're going to be able to protect yourself against something like Daniel Snyder did in this particular case, and get yourself out of some tight jams. So it's hard to get these guys out. Look, when you pay the amount of money that it takes to get into this thing, nobody wants to see you be forced to sell. So remember, these NFL franchises are 32 individual entities that come together to make up the NFL. So you can run your business whatever way you want, but remember, the way you run your business has some kind of impact, whether directly or indirectly, on the rest of us, the rest of the product. So unless you're doing something that is so egregious and so grossly negligent that it's affecting the rest of us, we're going to let you do whatever you do, because we could care less about how you run your organization as long as you're not creating a black eye on and a perception that is negative on the rest of the league, which impacts the other 31 franchises. You do whatever you want. If you want to be a terrible owner, run your organization into the ground, look, we're all splitting the revenue 32 ways. Like all that, the revenue sharing, that's why they don't care about what Daniel Snyder is doing, as long as you're not dragging the rest of the league into this. And having a sexual assault allegation against your club is dragging the rest of the league into it. And because of that, that's when other owners then get involved. That's why Jerry Richardson was forced to sell the Carolina Panthers, because once you get into that kind of territory in murky waters, we can't have that. You know, the NFL issued a statement saying, look, there's no place for this in the NFL. We can't have this in our league. Yeah, that's what they're supposed to say. But there wasn't anything implicating Dan himself, which there was with Jerry Richardson, direct implication on Jerry Richardson, which is why he had to go. So it's hard to get NFL owners out because it's hard to get in. And when something's hard to get into, usually it's just as equally as hard to get out. It takes a lot because, again, they don't want to force anybody to sell. You know, you pay a lot of money to get in here. It's an elite fraternity. And so you're going to have to really do something egregious to force us to then have to impede. It's like you having a business. I can't tell you what to do with your business. All right. But if your business is doing something that's illegal or something that's really making the rest of these businesses look bad, then the Better Business Bureau has to step in and say, all right, man, we gotta come over here and we gotta tap you on your wrist because you're doing some nonsense now. Like, I can't tell you how to run your business. And that's what these 32 individual entities are. They're their own business that collectively come together. So that's why it's so hard, because this is his business. As long as he's not doing something egregious, then it's hard to get him out. Thank you for the super chat, Giovanni Diamond. Got one more super chat. This is from Giovanni again. Double up. Thank you for doubling up, Giovanni Diamond. Greatly appreciate you. Giovanni writes, Louis, did you hear Jeff Bezos could be the next owner of the Washington football team? Also, do you feel he would be a good owner for us? So we've all heard that he was interested in owning an NFL franchise. It's not going to happen. He's not going to own this team because, again, Tanya Snyder, and their daughter owns 60% of the Washington Redskins or Washington football team. So at the end of the day, they're the majority owners. No one can come in and own more than Daniel Snyder because he owns more than 51% or 51%. Really, all you have to own is 50.1% of the company, and you are the majority owner. But he owns 60. He, his wife, and his daughter own 60. So, no, Jeff Bezos could buy the other 40%. He still can't do anything about Daniel Snyder. He still would be a silent partner, essentially, because Daniel Snyder would still be making the bulk of the decisions because he owns the vast majority of the team. So, from that standpoint, you're not going to see a guy like Jeff Bezos come in here, but make no mistake about it. This is the interesting part, and I'm glad you brought this up. Everyone just assumes that if we get Daniel Snyder the hell out of here, the next guy's going to come in here and he's going to be great, like Tony the Tiger. Not exactly. That's not how this works, okay? You know, it's like that old Hertz commercial. Hey, man, is that a Denali? Not exactly. Hey, do you guys come and do front door service? Not exactly. All right. Are you Hertz? hey, not exactly. All right. Just because you get rid of Daniel Snyder and somebody else comes in here doesn't mean that they're going to be this 5-star NFL owner. He could be just as bad as Daniel Snyder. Now, I don't think we could get any worse. And that's why we say, look, we can't do any worse than Daniel Snyder. That's true. You can't do any worse because I can't imagine an NFL owner coming in and doing any worse than Daniel Snyder has. I could see someone equaling what Daniel Snyder, but the floor is Daniel Snyder. So I can't imagine anyone coming in here and doing any worse. You'd have to literally dig up cement to do worse than Daniel Snyder. And I don't see anybody doing it. But just because you get a new owner doesn't mean you're going to have, success automatically. Jeff Bezos, everything he seems to touch turns to gold, but that doesn't mean he's going to come in here, touch this NFL franchise, and it's going to turn to gold. But also, Jeff Bezos, a lot of people, I've heard this. I don't know Jeff Bezos. I don't know enough about him to speak on this. But I've heard a lot of people, and I've talked, you either respect Jeff Bezos which most people do because of his success, or you say, look, this guy's a jerk. He's an ass, you know? And he may be an ass. But if you're winning and you're an ass, we'll excuse the ass portion of the discussion if you're getting wins. Like, people, we love talking about yesteryear with the Redskins and Jack Kent Cooke. Jack Kent Cooke was an ass. He was. But he won. So we were like, hey, he's our ass. He was a mean old curmudgeon, was Jack Kent Cooke. But he won. And he won big. So we excused all of his nonsense. He almost wanted to fire Joe Gibbs after the 0-6 start. Like, let's not act as if, you know, these NFL owners are all good guys, because they're not. You know, I'm hearing players come out and say, this organization is racist. Well, I'm going to tell you right now, I'm going to be really blunt with you. Probably 24 of the 32 NFL franchises, the people running the show, the guys in the front office, the ownership groups, are probably racist in 24 of we remember the comment that the Titans, or excuse me, the Texans former owner Bob McNair, God rest his soul, made. We remember him talking about inmates running the asylum. Like, whoa, dude, what are you doing? Like, again, I said all of that to say this. There's no guarantee if Jeff Bezos took over that he'd be a great owner. All right. But as I said a million times, and I think a lot of people would echo this sentiment. I don't like speaking for you guys out there, but I'm pretty sure a lot of you guys would like to find the hell out. Okay. A lot of us would like to find out how good of an owner someone else would be, not named Daniel Snyder, for this organization. But that being said, we're not going to find out, because Daniel Snyder isn't going anywhere. So for what it's worth. But do I think Bezos would be a good owner? I'd like to find out. I don't know what kind of acumen sports-wise he has. I know he's business-wise, he's got a hell of a business acumen. I don't know what he has in terms of sports. What I've seen from him, what he's done at the Washington Post, is he's hired smart people and gotten the hell out of the way. At Amazon, he's got great people and he's got his thumbprints all over Amazon, but rightfully so, that's his lane. So he should have his fingerprints all over that. But the Washington Post, that's not his lane. So what did he do? Hire smart people that know what the hell they're doing. Get out of the way. All right? If he were to come in here and do that, that's all we want. That's all we want from Daniel Snyder. Hire smart people that know what they're doing. Get the hell out of the way. Have you read what Scott McCloughan said? Hey, look, this is from Scott McCloughan. I've worked with 4 NFL owners. He said, I worked, in Green Bay. They don't have an actual owner. It's owned by the public, but worked for Green Bay. Great people in that front office. I worked for Seattle. We know about the Seattle Seahawks. Paul Allen, God rest his soul, and all of those guys. Great organization there. He said, I worked for the San Francisco, the Bartolo family, obviously Jed York and company. Great situation there. And I worked for the Redskins and Daniel Snyder. And he said, of the 4 organizations I worked for, Snyder was the best. That came from Scott McCloughan. Snyder was the best. All he wants to do is win. That didn't come from my mouth. That came from Scott McCloughan's mouth. So if Dan truly wants to win, hire the right people. Get the hell out of the way. That's it. It's not hard. It's not rocket science. You really want to win as bad as you say you do? Hire the right people. Get the hell out of the way. Simple. Anyhow, thank you for the super chat. And doubling up, Giovanni Diamond. Mr. Wright, thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you, Mr. Wright. Mr. Wright writes, man, I'm sorry, Skins fans. This isn't fair, and I'm a Cowboys fan. Without Redskins and the song HTTR, there would be no Cowboys. Yeah, it sucks. It really does, because whatever they end up naming this franchise, it's not going to have the same ring as Cowboys versus Redskins. It was supposed to be Cowboys versus Indians. That was the whole premise of the rivalry. Cowboys versus Indians. So whatever we're going to be now, and I don't want to be over dramatic, okay? Because at the end of the day, who cares? Some of you just like, hey, I care. look, at the end of the day, it is what it is. Whether it's the Red Tails or it's the Warriors or it's the Red Wolves or, what may have you. If the Redskins are winning, if the Cowboys are winning and they're meeting and it's Cowboys versus Red Wolves, you're going to be just as ginned up and juiced up for it as if it were Redskins and Cowboys. So, if the Cowboys are going into week 17, week 18, because we're extending the season out by an extra week. If the Cowboys go into week 18, and there's, 13-4, or 12-4 going into week 18, and the Redskins are 11-5 going into week 18, and it's winner takes all, wins the division, and the Redskins already beat the Cowboys once, and so if they beat them again, they'll both finish at 12-5, but the Redskins will own the tiebreaker because they swept the Cowboys in the season series head-to-head. If that's in fact the case, who cares about if we're the Redskins, Red Wolves, Red Hawks, Red Knights? Who gives a shit? Cowboys versus Red whatever, or Cowboys versus Warriors. Who cares? All you'll care about is the star on one helmet and the whatever is on the other helmet, and that's your favorite team, and you want them to win. So, as Redskins fans, we've went through a lot, and I've stated this numerous times. We've been through a ton as Redskins fans. I was listening to the Kevin Sheehan Show podcast, trying to catch up. I still haven't caught up all the way. But he said that someone said to him that Redskins fans should be paid a salary for what they have to go through. It's not a bad idea, man, because it's like a full-time job being a Redskins fan with all the shit that we got to go through. We're not just allowed to root for our favorite team. We got so many other things that we got to worry about every single week, month, seems like year. It's always something with this team. 9 times out of 10, we're not even talking about the stuff on the field. We're talking about something off the field. It's exhausting. I can't tell you that how happy I was when the Washington Post article came out, even though I wasn't happy with the result of it. When that came out, I was exhausted mentally. Like I told you guys at the top of my live stream on Thursday night, I've never checked my phone that many times because every time I heard dun-dun-dun, dun-dun-dun, I had to run to my phone. If it wasn't near me, if it was on the charger, or if I put it down on a counter somewhere, I had to run to my phone to see if this was it, if this was the one. Anytime I got a notification from Twitter or somewhere, I had to go check my phone. Is this the one? Is this it? Is this a bombshell? Did someone just drop something? I had to consistently keep checking my phone constantly just to stay abreast of everything. I was mentally drained. All right. I can't imagine that you guys out there weren't feeling the same way. Mentally drained. It takes a toll on you when all you want to do is just cheer for your team, but you've got to go through all this other stuff. And then you've got to hear other fans chiming in, and they don't know half the story. I got fans from other teams that aren't even in this division chiming in and asking me questions, which is cool. I appreciate their concern and they want to know what's going on. But then you get other fan bases chiming in with their opinion. They don't know the half. Honestly, if you're not a Redskins fan and a long-suffering Redskins fan, then you don't know the half. You can't even begin to understand what it is we as diehard Redskins fans go through. The ones that tell you, hey, I'm done with the team, they've been going through it too. That's why they feel like they're done with the team. It's a lot. It's a lot. And so, I keep telling myself, this is because I'm a glass half full guy. I'm an optimist. I keep telling myself this. Man, it's going to be that much sweeter when we finally get to the mountaintop. If we ever get to the mountaintop. It seems like we'll never get there. But when we do, if we do, it'll be so sweet because of all of the shit that we've had to go through, all the stuff we've had to endure to finally get to that point. It'll make it be that much sweeter. It'll taste so much sweeter. I swear it will. But we got to get there first, man. But boy, did we have to get through a lot of garbage to get there if we ultimately ever do. But anyhow, I thank you for the super chat, Mr. Wright. And I appreciate your sympathy, man. I really do. I know you can't empathize with us, but I appreciate your sympathy. I've felt that from a lot of the teams in the division, Giants fans, Cowboys fans, Eagles fans. A lot of them have said, hey, man, this sucks. It does. It really does. And you guys know probably more so than anybody else outside of the division what it's like, because we family, man. And so what hurts one family member, for some of you, hurts other family members. For some of you, like, look at the Redskins. and that's cool, too. I don't have any problems with that either. Anyhow, thank you for the super chat, Mr. Wright. Got another super chat. This one is from my man, Martin Matthews, Double M. That's my guy, Double M. Thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you. As always, Martin Matthews, Double M, writes, hey, Louie, let's face it. Snyder isn't going anywhere. Facts. Absolutely, unequivocally, 100% fact. As fans, all we can do is hope that he has learned something from this and Snyder and Rivera can get this team to a respectable level it used to be. Couldn't have said it any better myself. I think that's kind of what I said. You just summed it up. It took you, 30 minutes less than it took me to say it. That's eloquently said, well put. That's all we can hope for. And I said everything that I said today to kind of just put a nice bow on this whole situation. I'm done with it. I don't know about you. Unless something major comes out, I'm done with it. This is my last 2 cents on that. I'm ready to turn the page. And so all we can hope for is that Daniel Snyder learned from this experience and that now he's going to be a better owner because of it. And I think that he was this close, and I hope he understands that. But again, his arrogance may not allow him to understand just how close he was to losing this franchise. But all we can hope is that he understands that, you got to make some changes. And it starts with you. And that's always been the problem with me as a Redskins fan with Daniel Snyder, is that he's never been able to do any kind of introspection. He's never been able to look at himself and say, hey, this starts with me. I'm the problem. I've got to change some of the ways I do things. And in turn, the rest of this organization will become better because of some of the changes I've made at the top. He's never been he's never allowed himself to do that because he's not wired that way. It's never his fault. It's somebody else's fault. It's Bruce's fault. It's Jay's fault. It's Mike Shanahan's fault. It's somebody else's fault. It's not his. And I'm hoping that he realizes this is your fault. You allowed this to happen. This sexual misconduct that was happening, it happened under your watch. This is your fault. Mark Cuban said, you've got to take responsibility individually and say, this is what I did wrong. This is what I need to do to fix the situation. And hopefully he'll take that and extrapolate that over the entire franchise and say, there are a lot of things that have been going on wrong for a long time. He's not going to do that because he's Daniel Snyder, which is why we wanted him to sell. But as a fan, that's all we can hope, is that out of this comes some introspection from Daniel Snyder, and it allows him to change for the better. And that's all we can hope. But I'm not going to hold my damn breath. All I'm going to do is hope that Ron Rivera gets the autonomy to do what it is he was brought here to do, which is change this culture and develop a winning one and a consistent winning culture. And if he's allowed to do that, because I think if he's given the ability to do that, I think he will do that here. I like the guys that are in place with this organization right now. And I think if he's allowed to do that, I think it will ultimately happen. But again, it's only going to happen if Daniel Snyder allows it to happen. So we shall see. But great super chat, Martin Matthews. Greatly appreciate you. So with that being said, I got one more super chat. Didn't think I had another super chat, but I do. I got another super chat. This one from Hype Do. Thank you for the super chat, Hype Do. Greatly appreciate you, Hype Do, who writes, Dan is responsible for being so damn irresponsible. Exactly. And that's the point, is that he's not going to admit that, I don't think. I don't think he's going to admit that he was irresponsible by not having a real human resources department, by not having protocols put in place so that people who felt like they were being wronged could actually go somewhere and report it to someone and have something done about it. Not having those things in place, that's on Daniel Snyder. You own an over $3 billion organization. You telling me you can't have a proper human resources department? Like, what are we talking about here? Like, these are things that's just pure negligence on his part. And he's got to be able to say, that's my fault. That's on me. But that's never been who Daniel Snyder's been. So why do you think this is going to be any different? That's how I look at it. I hope I'm wrong. And I hope that him being on the brink of having to sell his team will all of a sudden be that awakening moment, as I mentioned, what I call it, the awakening moment. I hope that's what this serves as. But, with Daniel Snyder, I won't even hold my breath. So, thank you for that super chat, Hype Dude. And that is it from everyone. I thank all of you guys and gals for joining me on this stream. I just wanted to get this done and kind of turn the page on this whole situation. I wanted to sing the praises of Ron Rivera once more as well. He's the man for the job. And everything that he said leading up to this, everything he said afterwards has been right in line and consistent with the message that he's been putting forth since he got here, since he stepped up to that podium, back in January and was announced as the next head coach of the Washington Redskins. Everything he said from that point forward has been consistent, and it's been constant about one thing, and that's changing the culture here. And I think he's the man for the job. And I want to see him actually get an opportunity to do it. It really doesn't start, though, until the players are able to get back into the facility. So everything is lip service right now until action is actually able to be put into action, for better lack of a term. Or for lack of a better term. In any event, I am a Redskins fan, etched in burgundy and gold. And again, this is going to change at some point. My Redskins spirit will never die. My Redskins spirit will never fold. And that's true. Because even if we're the Red Wolves, in my heart, I'll still be a Redskins fan. But whatever they change the name to, I'm going to support them. So, hail to the Washington Redskins, or whatever the hell they're going to call themselves. I'm your man, Louis T, signing off. Remember, if it's not your man T, it's not, I repeat, not the best NFL coverage. It could be. And also, remember, if you haven't already done so, subscribe to the Louis T Network for more great content. Also, make sure that you like this video, subscribe, and turn on that notification bell so you don't miss a thing. I'm your man, Louis T. I'm glad to the side. You guys stay safe. Make sure that you're taking care of yourself and your family members, and we will reconvene at a later date in time. Hopefully nothing else comes about, but if it does, I'll be here sooner rather than later. But until then, see you guys sometime next week, more likely than not Thursday, as we come back for another Washington report live. You guys take care, man. Have a good one.